The knock comes at exactly 7 a.m. every single morning. For 4 months, my neighbor Mrs. Chen has asked to borrow sugar. Same question. Same smile. Same cold hands when she touches mine. I thought she was just a lonely old woman being kind. Then my landlord told me something that made my blood run cold. Mrs. Chen has been dead for 5 years. And the apartment she returns to every night? It's been condemned and empty for 7 years. But every morning at 7 a.m., she knocks on my door. And I still answer. Before we go further into this story, I need to know, where are you watching this from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if stories like this keep you up at night, hit that subscribe button. Because what I'm about to tell you will change how you see your own neighbors. Trust me on that. Now, let me tell you how this all started. I moved into apartment 4A 4 months ago. Standard 1-bedroom. Nothing special. Affordable rent in a building that had seen better days. The kind of place where neighbors avoid eye contact in the elevator. Where everyone keeps to themselves. Where you can live for months and never learn a single person's name. Except Mrs. Chen. The morning after I moved in, at exactly 7 a.m., there was a knock at my door. I shuffled over in my bathrobe, coffee still brewing, barely awake. Through the peephole, I saw an elderly woman in a floral cardigan. Smiling. Holding a small porcelain sugar bowl. I opened the door. "Good morning, dear," she said warmly. "I'm Mrs. Chen from 4B. May I borrow some sugar?" Her voice was gentle. Grandmotherly. The kind of voice that immediately puts you at ease. "Of course," I said, still half asleep. I took her bowl, scooped 3 spoonfuls from my container, handed it back. She beamed at me. "You're so kind. I'll return it this evening, as always." "You really don't have to." "Nonsense. My mother raised me properly." She patted my hand with her papery fingers. They were cold. Ice cold, actually. But I figured that was just poor circulation. Old age. "Have a wonderful day, dear." She shuffled back to apartment 4B. Her door clicked shut. That evening, I found the sugar bowl outside my door. Filled. 3 perfect spoonfuls. The next morning, 7 a.m. sharp, she knocked again. Same question. Same routine. And the morning after that. And after that. Every single day for 4 months. I didn't mind. Actually, I liked Mrs. Chen. In a building full of people who pretend you don't exist, she was the only one who talked to me. The only one who made me feel like I wasn't completely alone in this city. Sure, it was strange that she needed sugar every single morning. And yes, her hands were always freezing when they brushed against mine. And okay, her apartment was always completely silent. No TV sounds. No footsteps. Nothing. But I told myself she was just a quiet person. A creature of habit. A lonely widow with a routine that gave her days structure. I never questioned it. Not until that Tuesday in month 4. When the landlord caught me in the hallway. "Hey," he said, holding a clipboard. "Doing routine inspections. You settling in okay?" "Yeah, great. No complaints." "Good, good. Glad someone's living in 4A again." He marked something on his clipboard. "Been empty too long. Bad for the building." I laughed. "Empty? I moved in 4 months ago." Right. What I mean is, before you. It was empty for 5 years. Ever since Mrs. Chen died. The hallway tilted. My ears started ringing. "What did you say?" "Mrs. Chen. Lady who used to live in your unit, in 4A. Died in there, actually." He grimaced. "Wasn't found for about a week. Sorry, probably should have mentioned that before you signed the lease. But legally we don't have to. Mrs. Chen lives in 4B. The words came out automatically. The landlord stopped. Looked at me. Really looked at me. Mrs. Chen lived in 4A. Your apartment. And she's been dead for 5 years. No. My voice sounded far away. Like it was coming from someone else. She knocks on my door every morning. We talk. She borrows sugar. The color drained from his face. Kid. 4B has been empty since before Mrs. Chen died. We can't rent it. The plumbing's completely shot, there's black mold everywhere, the whole unit's condemned. Nobody's been in there for 7 years. He pulled out his phone. Pulled up something. Showed me the screen. An obituary. Margaret Chen, 1938 to 2020. Beloved neighbor. Found deceased in her apartment after welfare check. No surviving family. Below the text was a photo. Floral cardigan. Gentle smile. Kind eyes. Mrs. Chen. My Mrs. Chen. The one who knocked on my door every morning. You okay? The landlord's voice sounded like it was underwater. You look like you're gonna pass out. I grabbed the wall for support. My vision was swimming. My hands were shaking. Can you? I swallowed hard. Can you open 4B? Please. The landlord looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Yeah. Yeah, I can do that. He pulled out his massive keyring. Started sorting through keys with trembling hands. But I'm telling you right now, he said quietly. Nobody's been in there for years. The door to 4B creaked open. And the smell hit me first. Rot. Mildew. Decay. The thick, choking stench of abandonment. The landlord flipped the light switch. Nothing happened. The electricity had been shut off years ago. He pulled out his phone flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness. Black mold crawled up the walls like grasping fingers. Thick. Aggressive. Spreading across every surface. The floorboards were warped and water damaged, buckling in places, completely rotted through in others. Everything was covered in dust. Thick, undisturbed dust. The kind that takes years to accumulate. No furniture. No decorations. No floral cardigan hanging by the door. No sugar bowl on the counter. No Mrs. Chen. Nobody's been in here, the landlord whispered. Nobody could survive in here. The air quality alone would. He stopped. Because we both saw it at the same time. In the dust on the floor, there was a trail. Footprints. Small. Shuffling. Leading from where the door stood, across the empty room, to the wall. The wall that separated 4B from my apartment. The same path she would take every morning. From her door to mine. The landlord's flashlight beam followed the trail. The footprints led right into the solid wall. And then they just stopped. Like she walked through it. Jesus Christ, the landlord breathed. He backed out of the apartment quickly. Almost tripping over his own feet. I'm calling someone. Health inspection. Structural engineer. I don't know. I can't. I can't deal with this right now. He practically ran down the hallway. Left me standing there in the doorway of apartment 4B. I stood there for a long time. Looking at those footprints in the dust. Looking at the wall she walked through every single morning. Mrs. Chen. I whispered into the darkness. The silence was absolute. No response. No movement. Nothing. Just the smell of rot and the sound of my own breathing. I went back to my apartment. Sat on my couch. Stared at the wall between us. And I realized something that made my chest ache. She doesn't know. Mrs. Chen has been dead for 5 years, and she doesn't know. She just keeps doing what she did when she was alive. Her morning routine. The same path, the same question, the same kind smile. Borrowing sugar from the only person who can see her. The only person who treats her like she's still here. I thought about her obituary. No surviving family. I thought about how she died alone in this apartment. How nobody noticed for a week. How she just kept deteriorating in here while the world moved on without her. And I thought about something else. I'd been in this building for 4 months. In those 4 months, Mrs. Chen was the only person who spoke to me. The only person who smiled at me. The only person who made me feel like I wasn't completely invisible. Like I mattered to someone. Even if that someone was a ghost who didn't know she was dead. That night, I barely slept. I kept staring at my door. Wondering if she was standing on the other side. Wondering if she knew. Wondering what would happen if I didn't answer tomorrow. Would she just keep knocking? Would she disappear? Would she finally realize she was gone? At 6:45 a.m., I was already awake. Already standing by my door. Heart pounding. 7 a.m. came. And the knock came with it. I stood there with my hand on the doorknob. Frozen. I could ignore it. I could move. I could pretend I never learned the truth. I could let her fade away. Let her knock on an unanswered door until she finally understood. But then I thought, where would she go? What happens to a ghost who doesn't even know she's a ghost? Who just wants to borrow sugar and return it properly, the way her mother taught her? Who died alone and has been alone ever since? I opened the door. Mrs. Chen stood there in her floral cardigan. Clutching her porcelain bowl. Smiling that same gentle smile. "Good morning, dear," she said. "May I borrow some sugar?" I smiled back. And I realized something. I wasn't smiling because I was pretending everything was normal. I was smiling because I meant it. "Of course, Mrs. Chen." I took her bowl. Scooped 3 spoonfuls. Handed it back. Her cold fingers brushed mine. Those same ice-cold fingers that should have told me something was wrong months ago. "You're so kind," she said. "I'll return it this evening, as always." "I know you will. Have a wonderful day, dear." "You too, Mrs. Chen." She shuffled back across the hallway. To the condemned apartment that doesn't exist anymore. To the home she doesn't know she left 5 years ago. To the place where she died alone. I closed my door. And I stood there for a moment, holding my empty sugar container. Here's what I realized. I'm not doing this for her. I'm doing it for me. Because in this building full of people who won't make eye contact in the elevator. In this city where you can die alone and nobody notices for a week. In this life where loneliness wraps around you like black mold creeping up the walls. She's the only one who knocks. The only one who sees me. The only one who makes me feel like I'm still alive. Tomorrow morning, at 7 a.m., she'll knock again. And I'll answer. Because she needs someone to borrow sugar from. And I need someone who treats me like I matter. Maybe that makes me crazy. Maybe I should move. Maybe I should tell someone. But I won't. Because here's the truth nobody wants to admit. We're all just going through the motions. We're all just trying to feel less alone. We're all just haunting our own lives, repeating the same routines, hoping someone notices we exist. Mrs. Chen died 5 years ago. But every morning, she gets up, puts on her floral cardigan, picks up her sugar bowl, and knocks on my door. Because that routine is all she has left. That connection is all she remembers. And honestly, I understand completely. So tomorrow, at 7 a.m., when that knock comes, I'll answer. I'll smile. I'll give her 3 spoonfuls of sugar. And for those few seconds, neither of us will be alone. Even if we're both just ghosts going through the motions. Even if we're both just haunting this place. Even if neither of us wants to admit how lonely we really are. The landlord called yesterday. Said he's having 4B professionally sealed. Demolition crew coming next month. I didn't tell him that won't matter. Because Mrs. Chen isn't in 4B anymore. She's in the walls. In the routine. In the space between the living and the dead. And every morning at 7 a.m. she'll knock. And I'll answer. Because some hauntings aren't about fear. Some hauntings are about being seen. If this story made you think about your own neighbors differently, leave a comment below. And if you want more stories about the spaces between the living and the dead, subscribe. Because loneliness isn't just a feeling. Sometimes it's a haunting.